jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show.
Here we are. The Alien and Predator saga reviewed by, in order of my selected appearance, David Gherman.
Hey, what's up? How you all doing?
Jonathan Mark.
What's up?
And Niell Nightmare Nerd Ryan.
Greetings, my fellow horror and science fiction fanatics.
You can't set them off, but you might be able to set the creatures here in these movies. Ugh. So, as we go around, the Alien and Predator saga was always rumored to be part of itself, and then
Game over, man!
Game over. As soon as it crossed over, game over. And from there on, we just see just a continual mix of ideas, terror and adventure and other outer space concepts that are essentially, updated B-movie tropes, but hardly just a simple, lowbrow thing. Everyone is just always going to these spectacles, they're making Star Wars type money because, they come in the wake of Jaws and all these other, blockbusters. So we're gonna tackle them all chronologically and just kind of give our thoughts as well as how it echoed how we got into this franchise with each one. And don't worry, I'll select each movie and by year, and we'll go from there. So it all started in 1979. Dan O'Bannon came up with a creepy concept. He later went on to do other materials such as Species, Return of the Living Dead films, and even Life Force. And here he teamed up with early in his prime Ridley Scott to do this spaceship besieged by an unusual creature. So did you guys see this back in the day, or were you... Well, no, you're not that old, so I mean you mainly saw...
I was an infant.
Right, so you guys mainly saw it on the movie channels, or were you more used to it being like the movie of the week kind of deal, or at the video store?
I saw
Video
the
school for me.
Okay. It is very interesting how this is continually just plagued everyone with terror nationwide. I was the generation where I had to hold the DVD remote in front of my eyes and did not want to, look at the screen. So it is wacky how, yes, I know the trope nowadays is you can make memes of this and it's not so scary if you fast forward. But yeah, at the time, it was just like, jeez, what is it about this former basketball player in a creature suit that's just so freaky?
Everything. That's what's brilliant.
I guess so. I mean, because it does kind of have that Night of the Living Dead kind of thing where everyone's trapped in a hole. Instead of a house, it's a, spaceship. And this is often cited as one of the earliest cyberpunk movies just because of the spacesuit design. I think that's a little cheating, but I guess I'll give it that since there's a lot of Easter eggs to Blade Runner later on, so it's kind of wild. I guess what are the pros and cons of this very first chapter in the saga? And we just like to just flesh out.
Bro, unbelievable creativity.
Yeah.
Pro
Yeah.
introduced us to Sigourney Weaver.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my. And I guess what's more interesting is how basically, years before Roger Corman starts and other, B movie guys start doing ripoffs of this is like this kind of redesigns the whole, experiment gone wrong kind of genre. Because I mean, it isn't even an experiment; it's just undiscovered, terror in space. Instead of it being a crewman or even just the robot, it's just they're having to both learn about the creature while trying to survive it at the same time. And nowadays we don't even do that. Then now it's like someone says one line of dialogue and then they get killed, and you only remember them because of how they were killed versus they were a different character in a spaceship.
This movie was an early example of when we started to portray the future as not being shiny and sterile and wonderful. It was, these were working class guys. Their uniforms were dirty. The spaceship surfaces were dirty and a little dingy. It was not like this shiny 2001 The Space Odyssey future.
Very well said. Because I mean,
Wow.
Yeah, I enjoyed that aspect. And by the way, I did see this in the theater. I was 14 when this came out, so you don't bite.
Did you do what my mother did on the opening of Jaws, where she kicked people in front of them? Or
I remember watching it mainly through my fingers because I had my hands up to my face the whole time.
That kind of a freaky kind of movie.
It was absolutely the tension was almost unbearable. I just remember the first time seeing it. I almost couldn't stand it. It was so frightening, and I loved it, of course.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely one of those movies where you watch it, and introduce it to crowds, and no one knows what to expect. There's always people who have heard of it, but I mean, every film history book I would ever read that would talk about this, when they got to the chapter, it was all, you could never sum it up in just, a few paragraphs. They would go, at least spend a good 7 pages on it. And it was always connected with all the other blockbusters because, they're using special effects to tell a story, as well as change how they tell the genre, and, all the actors, even the minor supporting actors like Ian Holm, Veronica Cartwright, their careers explode, Holm, goes on to other British productions, and even The Fifth Element, and Veronica, she has had other recurring TV roles around that decade later. She was on LA Law, so there you go. It's just everybody is definitely recognized for this. And Ridley Scott's never been one who really develops his characters, but fortunately enough, there's enough for everyone to build and characterize themselves. And Dan O'Bannon, he's into this kind of weird Cthulhu Lovecraftian kind of terror, so he everyone has their moment in the sun.
Yeah, I was in The Birds, for crying out. She had a real horror movie pedigree. She was in The Birds,
Right,
which also terrified me the first time I saw it.
Yeah, well, and those movies both kind of have a similar template where you instantly jump into the terror, and so you instantly accept it, versus other movies where they rush themselves so frantically to where you have trouble kind of buying into everything right away, because you're just like, whoa, hold up, did I miss something? What's going on?
And she was also in the Body Snatchers remake, so she was.
That's right.
Some heavy hitters. I was watching that today. She's been in some heavy hitters for. She's got that face. She plays a good sort of woman. She's always edgy. She's always on the edge of looks like she's on the edge of just a complete freak out.
Yeah, I know, right? And even her IMDb photo where she's smiling, she looks like she's, if there's too many flashes, she's going to be like, melting. But yeah, no, Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a good parallel, because, that is kind of around the same time where everyone, instead of just having a goofy man in a creature suit like Godzilla, a lesser Godzilla, or...
Well, it was a guy in a creature suit, just a much more grotesque creature suit.
It's a grotesque creature suit, but then they do the everyone just afraid of everything, just to move, just to breathe, just afraid of the unknown. And so they're kind of going for that kind of parallel, even though there's no, flesh, shedding or people in human, alien and
Well, there
human.
sort of is, isn't there? They do find like a cast off skin.
I guess with the robot that would count, yeah, because he's.
Yeah.
Well, they do find the shed skin of the of it.
The Xenomorph.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of.
I'm totally dead wrong. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, no, I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5. I can't deny it. I don't come back to it as much, but I cannot, deny the terror in it and just how, it's one of those, because it's been copied so much, I just don't find as much enjoyment with it now. But I cannot deny how, that if you were to still do a Alamo Drafthouse type screening with this would kill. This would sell out in a heartbeat still.
Oh yeah, it's still a brilliant movie.
It's still a good movie. It's just amazing just how many people have just ripped off the formula to where it's like, for God's sakes.
Well, it's the Matrix of its time. It made the formula.
That's a good parallel. It's like, good God, everybody stop shooting in slow motion. So
Stop the butt crack in the space uniform.
yeah, and then the cyborg going berserk and trying to, eliminate all the humans who are getting in his way because he's been sent by the corporation for a different purpose. So yeah.
And how disturbing was that scene? The sounds that he makes when he's that high pitched sort of warbling. I don't know what, like a giggle or it's effective.
Right, even when he's just like in that puddle.
And he's so smarmy. Even when he's just a head on a table, you just hate him. Great. It's a great performance.
One of the parts about this movie that has not aged well, in my opinion, that shot where they go from it's clearly his head in a hole in the table to where they pull the plug and it's just a wax mold there.
Yeah, they try to cover the transition.
Yeah.
Like she knocks it. Yeah, but you're right, that part.
And someone just lifted the camera up just a tad. You could. Damn you, Ridley Scott. But it's even funnier how that's one's been used so much in memes. It's like, please stop. You're making us laugh at this intense scene. So I'll let you guys rate it. John?
Well, this one, oh man, especially that scene with the android. That scene freaked me out as a kid. And I mean, everybody in the cast does such a great job with the characters. Which
Not every robot looks like the Jetsons.
Yeah, that's true.
Exterminate.
Oh dear God! Is this in the Doctor Who timeline? That might make a little better sense. Where the hell this creature came from?
True. But no, this is. I still call this a classic. It's still my favorite film of that year.
4 out of 5, 5 out of 5.
I'm 4.5 out of 5.
Okay, perfect. And David?
Oh, I give this one 5 out of 5. This is possibly my favorite horror movie of all time. It's up between this one and The Omen, I think. But I got this movie is it's nearly perfect. In fact, I think for me to find anything about it that I don't love, it would take a lot of effort. I think it's fantastic. In fact, if you look on my Facebook, I got the tattoo of the Nostromo, the patch, the shoulder patch that they have on their uniform, on their jackets. I have it tattooed on my shoulder. I just
the Halasan, yeah.
the Nostromo mission patch. This movie is one of the greatest horror movies of all time. 5 out of 5, without a doubt.
All right,
No
awesome.
way.
All right, nerd.
This is 5 out of 5, man. This is a timeless classic. It changed the whole space alien genre.
For sure. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5.
And the elements they unleashed, you can't say enough, man. This changed everything.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I mean, you see even just subtle references to it, much like 2001, where it's like, yeah, I know where you got that computer design or that. And nowadays, whenever a door opens, all the Foley artists will sneak in a sound effect that sounds like, Alien or Aliens. It's like, yeah, I know what you did there. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I don't think it outdoes Jaws by being as quotable. I can't even remember any of the quotes. I do think the tension is relentless and the characters are fascinating. There's a few slower moments because it is, an older movie, but it is pretty awesome still. So,
Great.
for sure. Now, on to decades later, Walter Hill and the other producers decide, someone else has to keep the franchise alive, and who better than someone who's been doing a lot of Alien knockoffs for Roger Corman, but James Cameron, fresh off the first Terminator and movies he's been fired from, like Piranha 2. So, who would have known?
Only we'd seen his final version.
Well, it's pretty debatable what the final version is because, he kept sneaking into the editing lab and then getting thrown out again. So, they got the Shout Factory release though, so that's interesting. Yeah, 86 was a great year for movies, and
Oh yeah.
it has to be up there. And it is wild because even though you got the Colonial Marines and more planet type adventure and more walking through vents than Die Hard 2 years later, I think it's very interesting how even though they're using computers at the time, it still looks bigger than it is because of all the other just attachments they add to it and just other props. And there was a great interview by Mark Ralston recently. Who plays can't speak today. Not Ned. Yeah, Drake.
Flanders?
Right.
Private
right.
Drake, and with Podcasting After Dark, and he talked about how the punch in the face, the black eye he got, was real, because everyone was coordinating and rehearsing the fights, and so they made sure to film it out of order, so it would look like he actually, they made that part of the movie. And he talked about how he and the other stars really bonded. He was already close with Bill Paxton, and he and Jeanette Goldstein, Vasquez, were very close. And James Cameron just allowed everybody to, enhance their various characterizations. And that does say a lot, because you're not going to know all the names right away on the first viewing. But yeah, multiple viewings, you just start realizing it's like, yeah, this is how you, characterize everybody. And then, move the film forward. Everybody's, all rowdy and everything. It's like, yeah, just another day on the block. What's to see here? We're used to stealing stuff from the corporation and, retrieving other stuff. Just another day job. They're basically subcontractors, Blackwater, before it was a thing. But in the future. And
But with a less cartoonishly evil name.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it is wild how Ripley just returns and is kind of spearheading the whole thing. She's learned to man up. You got Hicks, Corporal Hicks.
And Newt.
Here's the ultimate question I want to pose, because Michael Biehn has already played Kyle Reese from Terminator by this point. Is Hicks the essential role for him, or is the secondary to Kyle? Because it's just
Definitely secondary. Definitely secondary.
Really? Okay. Because I've seen people do that back and forth, and it's kind of apples and oranges to me, and yet he just owned both roles because, he and James were comfortable working together. He was already fresh off working on a few movies with William Friedkin, and so it's like, yeah, that is just
if I may interrupt here, it is worth noting in both films, his primary role is to build the female lead up.
Yeah,
in Terminator it's Linda Hamilton, and in Aliens it's Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, they always talk about Josh Whedon characterized females. I'm like, nah, fuck that. James Cameron characterized people. This is the same dude who later did the Dark Angel TV show with Jessica Alba. So I mean, he knows how to develop people and have it be more than just. I mean, he took atypical actors, and it wasn't about how built you were. You're adding CGI muscles to you. It was all about getting all the close-ups, getting all the other just art design
Character
and
development.
exactly just how it's staged. And I think that just it amazes me to no end how everyone just wants to overlook that. It's all about, oh, we need effects for this much. And it's like, or how about you just understand it and people will like it even more because it wasn't just brain dead entertainment. Oh, so yeah, no, I cannot deny this. This is a 4.5 out of 5 for me. It's just one of the 80s classics. It's referenced everywhere in other comic books to video games to other movies. It's just anytime you see a bunch of people, especially like the movie that we're going to talk about here in just a bit, you pretty much always go, oh, it's a Predator Aliens type movie, when you see a bunch of, outer space soldiers. I mean, you see it, especially the influence in other movies like, zombie remakes as well as, Dog Soldiers, just all those kinds of movies. Yeah, no, I can quote this one all day, and it's a great party movie as much as it is just an excellent, classic of the 80s and multiple genres. It's an action, sci-fi, horror movie. What else can we say? I'll let you guys rate it.
I'll go first.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Don't be shy, Dave.
Honestly, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 because it is an incredible action movie. It's so great in that respect, but I feel like it crippled the franchise because at this point, Ripley's arc was complete.
Oh, hey now.
Oh,
I kind of said that
okay.
with Alien now, but
I'm sorry, but in this movie, Ripley's character was complete, and there was nowhere for her to go, and they kept trying to use that character from there on. It crippled the whole franchise.
But Hudson.
They could have, man. They could have.
Okay.
And Newt, what could have been?
What could have been?
Well, yeah.
I don't think it's that bad. I think it stands as its own, and you can just pretend that it ended there.
That's what I do.
Okay. All right, John. Lock and load.
Well, I'm gonna be bold here, but this is actually my favorite movie of all time.
There you go. Well, okay.
Yeah, this is one I just grew up on as a kid. But like we said, I mean, it's so quotable. You have a fantastic cast who all have characters you remember to this day, and you quote to this day. And
Nice.
just James Cameron's writing and direction is just perfect. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this, at least to me.
Yeah.
It also has one of my all-time favorite scores from James Horner.
Good point.
That's
I mean, they even use it in a lot of movie trailers, especially
Rest in peace.
back in the day. So
yeah. That's very true.
this easily gets 5 stars. Easily the best one to me.
Okie dokie. David, step on up.
Yeah, definitely 5 out of 5. Maybe my favorite action movie of all time. It's interesting. One thing I hate is when people ask you, so which is a better, which is the better movie, Alien or Aliens? And like they're not. They're completely different movies. They're both set in space, and that's about it. They both involve xenomorphs. This one's just absolute balls to the wall action. Once the action starts, it just doesn't let up in this movie. You love the Marines. Some of the dialogue, some of the banter between the Marines is just hilarious. It's eminently quotable. Everything Hicks says.
There's a banquet. The paycheck a fortune.
Yeah, everything the Marines say is quotable. I love. Hey Vasquez, have you ever been mistaken for a man? She says, no. Have you?
Yo.
You're right.
It's one of the greatest burns in movie history. Definitely 5 out of 5. For me, a movie is judged by if you happen to stumble across it on TV or whatever. Can you stop watching it? And I just can't. When this movie's on, I have to watch it.
Right.
Same with me. Yep.
Have to watch it. It's terrifying. The direction is flawless. I can't. I can gush about this movie all day.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, let's go on to the other Men on a Mission versus Aliens, Jim. That is Predator. You're one ugly motherfucker. So, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Do we think of him as an actor or just an action star or both? Because it depends on who you ask.
He's an action star, man.
I know.
And there's nothing wrong with that. He knew what he could do, and he stuck to it.
Yeah, exactly.
He was
That's
very
right.
charming.
He could have gone out and tried to do Shakespeare. He knew what he could do, and he stuck to
did,
it.
remember, in Last Action Hero.
I wish they made that movie.
I wish they did make that version of Hamlet. Somewhere in a vault, someone optioned that movie, said, hey, Olivia Hussey, do you want to play the Queen to Arnold's Hamlet?
Suppose I can't argue with that.
He had a certain kind of charm, and just even mocking himself in movies like Kindergarten Cop, and even just playing it straight in rare instances like End of Days. Just that's what sets him up. Just growing up, I had to see every movie he was in. You know, Stallone just had so many blunders. Van Damme was hit and miss, and Bruce Willis didn't do as much. Was kind of like Clint Eastwood, where he did action here and there in between, serious dramas. So it's like Arnold was just the go-to if you want to see a spectacle and then just have an just epic one-liner. It was just you always waited for. Yes. Oh, and I went to the premiere of this one, just very awful. I think it was called Lake Fear. It was just a very amateur-made slasher movie in like 2015 or something. And at one point, I kid you not, they rip off the opening where someone gets stuck to the wall by a knife, and someone says, "Hey, stick around."
Wow.
And I was like, Jesus, someone watched
classic
Predator. I know, but it was very clear that someone had been watching that movie on autopilot nonstop. Oh, God. Bad horror movies. Where would we be without them? Anyway, so this one, God, it's amazing how Roger Ebert was like the only critic who gave this any slack back in the day, and yet it was immortal. Like, it was on HBO every day. It was,
Because it was cheap to come by.
It was cheap to come by. Stan Winston, it made its budget back, and Stan Winston, he was doing a lot of the same brilliant creature effects, but even other effects people were working on this. Rick Baker was starting off doing some creature helps. Robert Kurtzman was also an intern, so it's like everybody's.
Van Damme had his almost
Yeah, he was a whiny bitch, so they had to fire him before he, took it to the limit and made a awesome movie the next year called Bloodsport. Yeah, so this was one of those, I didn't react to it right away, but just time, I rectify that. I would keep talking about it and saying, I understand why this, because at the time I'd seen all of Arnold's other movies for the most part, and it was like, I don't know. Because, I'd seen parts of it before. I could see why it was suspenseful, and people said, the lasers and the other mystery tension, because this was also basically John McTiernan's Die Hard before he actually made Die Hard. It's just, he can never get away from it. Anytime he films a movie that's set in a jungle, he always has a lot of that same Predator music and shots. And fun fact, I forget the name of the cinematographer. I remember that dude had already worked on other great Australian movies like Attack Force C with then unknown Mel Gibson and Sam Neill, and John McTiernan had seen that movie at a drive-in. That's why he hired this guy to do all these stunning, tracking shots and handheld camera work. So in a way, this does also inspire a lot of all the other war movies before, years before Black Hawk Down and Saving Private Ryan. And so I'm just pointing that out. I think a lot of, if anything, when in doubt, everyone's definitely referencing shots from this movie because they just like how everyone's collected, exposing their strategy. And much like Aliens, I do like how, again, you find out midway through that, the other mercs have a double agenda. And I love, much like an Alien movie, I love seeing a Predator ripoff because they're almost always just atrocious. Invisible.
Oh, yeah.
Attacking people, very cheap locations. actors who are, barely getting by paying the rent. And so it's just always wild when I see a Predator knockoff. It's like, gee, I wonder what could happen. Surely they won't have an invisible creature. Oh, yes, they will. So it is a one of its kind. You just can't do it again. And oh, where would we be? Yeah, so that's all I got. It's a 4 out of 5. There's no denying it. It's an awesome movie. I don't think it's as awesome as The Running Man from that same year or even Aliens, but it's up there. It definitely goes in one of the top Men on a Mission movies or Alien versus Marines films. Oh. So I'll let David step up. You're too quiet, buddy.
Well, I'm not the biggest fan of this movie. It's a little.
Just okay.
Well, it's also a movie is also it's a question of where were you in your life when they come out, and
all good.
It's all good.
It's not like this is a critically acclaimed movie.
No, I mean I enjoy it. I'm not saying I don't know. It's not one that I go back to often. It's a little over the top. Well, which is the point, I guess. The scene where Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger do the the bro. It's like I thought it was becoming gay porn for a minute. I wasn't sure what I was.
Don't make me make another Peter North joke. Damn.
But again, some of the soldiers have really great lines. It's got some good quotable humor. And, Schwarzenegger again. Yeah, you're right. He's never going to play King Lear.
But we wish he would.
He is what he is.
True.
The creature effects are great. The concept is very interesting. The thought of being hunted. I don't know. I guess 3.5 out of 5. Is that okay?
Sure.
Are we doing half scores?
Yeah, we're doing out of 5 scores. So yeah. Fun fact: Dream Quest Images, who later worked on Total Recall and The Abyss, did get nominated for the best visual effects for this one. So.
Yep.
Oh yeah, definitely. The effects are fantastic. Yeah, I mean, they're just
Brilliant.
interesting concepts. The alien, the countdown on his wrist thing, being.
Oh yeah.
It's not numbers, but you immediately know what it is. So that was a good little.
And everybody loves about that laser nowadays. That's not how they act. I'm like, well, you don't get it. It's an alien laser. It doesn't. You can't bring real life science.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Daniel, how would you rank this movie? Just as a
4 or 5. I mean, it's really corny, but that's the fun of it. It's 80s guy film at its best.
yeah. I take it
As
you've
been
listened
said,
to the tracks.
The monster effects they hold up today. Just brilliant monster effects. Like even that first scene where it lunges out of the jungle and grabs the one nerdy guy is brilliant. It looks great even today.
Yeah. Have you listened to the riff tracks version of this movie?
That I have not actually.
The
though.
commentary is
I know
wild
what I'm
because at one point Mike Nelson is just making fun of the very dramatic.
This was the 80s 300.
Yeah,
I guess
good,
you could say that. That makes sense.
good analysis.
The crazy macho insane movie, but I love it to this day. And again, James Cameron's input there when he said, "Hey, how about a creature with mandibles?"
Right.
He's tying in straight through here, isn't he?
I mean, yeah. I mean, Stan Winston had to bring his own kind of creature. He loved making creatures. I mean, after all, after this year, he does Pumpkinhead, and then he does all these other, atypical movies. He even, I mean, for God's sakes, the man did Second Unit and makeup effects on Congo, which uses a lot of the same laser guns and Alien and Predator type tropes.
Oh, no! Fucking gorilla!
Oh God, it would have been interesting seeing Tim Curry in this too.
I love that.
Stop eating my sesame cake. Oh, okay, Johnny boy, how are you gonna rank this one?
Well, I mean, there's another one just like Aliens. I loved this as a kid. It's actually my favorite Schwarzenegger film. I do prefer The Running Man. That's just me.
No, it's all good. I didn't like Running Man growing up either. It was just the quotes that had just stuck in with me so much.
That's all
I'm going
good.
to ram my fist right for your spine. I totally bastardized the quote, but you know where I'm going for.
Well, yeah, but
Put a sock
Um,
in it.
like we said, I mean, the effects still hold up. I mean, that's Dan Winston for you. He was still, I think, the best at that. I mean, I don't know what to say. He may he rest in peace. Seriously.
I do miss that. I remember I cried inside and was like, man, the dude who, did everything. I'd read about him. I was behind him. I always wanted to. I mean, I would read about effects in various film history books, and I would always want to see them just for the effects, and then, figure out after the fact, yeah, that was a waste of time, or, oh, that was a really underrated movie, But
Mhm.
yeah, Winston was like the first one I did get into. I mean, yeah, there's Bob Bowden of The Thing. Yeah, there's, all the other guys, and Rick Baker, obviously, doing the
Yeah.
werewolf effects, but it's like that with this, I had no complaints. There just was no denying his appeal and characterization. And again, same. It's funny how this was pitched by Joel Silver as Rocky meets Alien.
Really? I even know.
Yeah, they joked about that. I'm like, it's not inspirational like Rocky, and it's definitely not as good as some of the formulaic sequels, but it does become kind of one of those, you see it referenced in other movies, like, I Come in Peace with Dolph, and
That's true.
Yeah, that's a good example.
it just some kind of both these franchises from that point on, there has to be either a scientist or there has to be an alien that hunts for sport. There's got to be one of those types of premises. Ironically, the guy who played the alien had been in a crappy drive-in feature by none other than Graydon Clark called Without Warning. That was a similar kind of movie, but that movie was a sleeping pill. Come on now. This is where it's at in terms of, creature fun. Yeah, no, I think we can all agree it may not be for everybody, but eventually, you're gonna, much like Aliens and maybe even the first Alien, you're gonna sit down and have this be a party movie where you sit out in the backyard on your projector and you play it and you have way too much fun in between all the drinks and food. So, with further ado,
I forgot to say that.
Oh man. Oh, did they even do any merchandise for this back in the day? Like, was this
Yeah, I'd be curious.
come see? It was probably later on after the 90s. This is like,
Yeah.
buy a Burger King special Diet Coke and you get a Predator figurine. You get the spears, collect all 6 spears. No, they didn't do that. That'd be great. Oh, so lo and behold, a sequel came conjuring up 3 years later, set in LA. Alternate reality of, much like Escape from New York, of 1997.
Mhm.
None other than Predator 2. So, I didn't get into this one right away. I revisited later when, I became a fan of Stephen Hawkins and his work in suspenseful stuff like Traffic the Series, 24, and even mishaps like, Lost in Space. But, then I see other movies like Judgment Day and, Nightmare on Elm Street 5, and I was like, yeah, this dude has a pretty cool eye for visuals and tension. I'll give Predator 2 another go. And lo and behold, I do think it's a fun movie. I don't think it's as sharp, no pun intended, but I do like the LA, cartels and everything. Danny Glover is cool, even though he really doesn't add as much to the movie. He's still in just, Murtaugh mode from Lethal Weapon, but I do think it's a cool creature feature, even though, by Act 2, you are kind of ready for it to end, but yet just all the other just nonstop action just kind of keeps you just involved, even though it's, it's pretty cliche. It's fun. Bill Paxton and Mary Chanchita kind of add a little charm to this as the, Blade Runner type cops. So yeah, it's a 3.5 out of 5. I'm still in debate. I prefer Maniac Cop 2 and some of the other sequels from this year over, other sequels of this year, but it's worth watching. Thoughts? With real
Well,
Slim
for-
Shadys, please stand up.
Well, for me, I actually find this to be incredibly underrated.
Yeah, no, it's
Agreed.
This is, in fact, I even know this got a lot of hate until years later after I watched it as a kid.
It kicked off all the Dark Horse Alien versus Predator ones just because of that alien Easter egg they put
That's
in
true.
the last 5 minutes, and it is wild how even the Fox executives couldn't decide if they wanted to do a crossover language for that long. Oh, we did that as a joke. No, we did that as canon. It's like, well, you put it in the movie, so clearly someone,
Never mind.
right, years before
Mhm.
Star Wars rewriting its whole canon, and Marvel doing the same. Oh, did anyone
no.
see this in the theater?
Nope.
No. I
Yeah, I don't think so. I think I rented it.
Why do you?
What was your thought on it, Dave?
I'm sorry, I didn't care for this movie at all. But maybe I might have gone into it expecting something different. I think that happens a lot. Your expectations are not met, and it's not that the movie itself sucks, but it's just not what you were expecting. So, my initial reaction to this movie was very negative.
It's pretty dated.
I guess because it had Bill Paxton in it and Danny Glover. So I was hoping for I was hoping for something different. I think
It is interesting how
the
he
setting
is.
was cool. It was good setting.
Yeah. Apparently, there was more to a lot of the other deaths, but they just had to cut it because they were otherwise going to get an X rating.
Maybe that would have made it better for me.
It didn't help that there were
Probably.
naked people during the death scenes, so
I did too.
that naked chick who has been in every Full Moon Entertainment movie had definitely had some work done on what.
Your words, not mine.
Oh well, I stand by them. It's interesting how it's pretty dated in some places, even though it's supposed to be the future, and yet I think that kind of brings a lot of the fun appeal to it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I will say it does feel like here's a theory. Do you think that the evil corporation that Gary Busey's a part of is actually the same, alien corporation, just a sister company under an alias?
It could be.
I mean,
In this film, no, but in the wider retrospect, yes.
pretty wild how many other B-movie actors before they are a thing appear here. Adam Baldwin, Robert Davies as the police chief for like 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. Henry Kingi, another stuntman who previously was in the first Predator. He's the first guy who gets killed that falls off, the cliff from the grenade explosion. And later did a lot of other stunt work, like the car chases in films like Bad Boys and The Rock, and has kind of like Thomas Versalles and what's his name, Danny Trejo, always been the go-to for playing a thug who gets killed, or henchman number 5. He's later in John Carpenter's Vampires as one of the hunters.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's a fun romp. I did get to go to Las Colinas studio and see some props that were used in this movie because, believe it or not, it was filmed here in Dallas, and I think for that opening, believe it or not. So
Nice.
John, I'll let you rank it and then go over to Daniel's rating.
Well, for me, I give this 4 out of 5.
Woo!
Yeah.
I thought we were all going to be harder on it, but no.
I already love this movie.
It's always varies by crowd. I cannot notice.
Yeah.
All right, Daniel, romp and stomp.
Agreed. 4 to 5. It's not aged well, but that's part of the charm for me.
Nowadays, if someone did a movie like this,
Oh yeah.
it'll be very junky, but I guess you could say it. I mean, you could say it like with Full Moon. Like, there's some good ones that really are pretty cool at being their own comic.
That opening scene alone, you got to go back to the time it was made in when there were these massive drug wars between gangs, like
LA riots, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was the reality. Today, it's so dated, but that's what makes it charming.
Exactly.
And I guess you could say, much like Escape from New York, there's
Yeah, exactly.
The the city is a character as opposed to just fading in the background and being
hell
eye
yes.
candy.
Yes.
You don't see any Coke ads or in-movie advertising like everybody was starting to do years before, Michael Bay made that his modus operandi. So,
And just those two scenes of where Danny Glover finds the Xenomorph skull in the trophy room and then all the other predators surrounding him, that set the stage for so much to come.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And I might add,
that was
if
a
I
great
could tell a personal story here.
tie-in.
Yeah, sure.
When I worked as a background in the movie Be Kind Rewind, Danny Glover had a role in that, and there were some people there who were expressing disbelief that, oh, Danny Glover, like a badass? What are you talking about? And I was like, you guys never saw Predator 2, did you?
I mean, Lethal Weapon, come on. I mean,
Oh, God, yes.
Silverado, I mean, he's a gentle giant, but when he's got to take out a shotgun, he'll blast your ass.
He wants to be a badass. He's a badass.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for God's sakes, he was pretty bad as one of the uncles on a recent episode of Blackish. But yeah,
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try
They must be destroyed on sight.
the new Podcast Cure-All? Sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of
They must be destroyed on sight.
as needed, and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Hey, I heard you like movies.
I heard you like to hustle.
I heard you like podcasts.
Well, guess what?
There's a podcast for you out there called The Home Video Hustle.
Damn right.
Every Friday, we talk about whatever movie PJ picks out the bag. What does that mean? Every Wednesday on our YouTube page, I put a bunch of movies in a bag, and PJ picks one out at random. And then we just watch it. We talk about it for maybe like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever we feel like doing, wherever the conversation leads us.
But do we actually talk about the movie?
Most of the time. Tangents galore.
Yes.
So believe me, we may be a movie podcast, but it's not always about movies. We may talk about video games,
Music.
Yeah, that's the big one, music. Sometimes we might get a little bit of politicalness in there.
Yes.
Sometimes we may just, we know what we like to do. We like to tell stories, PJ.
Yes.
I am the master storyteller
Yes.
of the podcast realm. Undefeated. So if you like to hear about movies, video games, whatever foolishness comes to our mind, the most random stuff you could think of, check out the Home Video Hustle. You can find us on the Stitchers,
Yes.
the Google Play,
Yes.
Apple Podcasts,
What else?
Podbean,
What else?
Podcast Addict,
Goddamn.
all that. Ain't no reason you can't get your hustle on. We everywhere, worldwide, baby.
Hustle, motherfucking hustle.
Hey, we can't cuss in the promo, PJ. We
Ah.
gotta be family friendly. There may be podcasts out there that don't want his hair say
Ah. Ah.
all
Yeah.
that good fun stuff.
Well, you.
Yeah. don't run the listeners away, PJ.
I'm sorry.
But this is going kind of long.
Yes.
So we'll end this and say, hey, check out the Home Video Hustle every Friday on all the various podcast outlets. Peace.
Peace.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. And while Witch didn't make it to the top of the world, he did make the Gangs of Hollywood podcast. So join the gang and enjoy a movie review podcast about movie gangs, gangsters, mobsters, and the mayhem they cause. You can find GOH Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at GOH Pod at www.gohpod.com, as well as your favorite podcast listening app. And remember, say hello to your little friend for me.
You take two old punk rockers who are past their prime, put them in front of a movie screen, and give them a podcast. What do you get? Cinema Punks. Cinepunks. It's the mixtape of movies.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
all popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was
How
going to be
did
a
you
rough
watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey.
And I'm Zach, and we're the hosts of Podcasting After Dark, a cast dedicated to late-night horror and sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, often found on HBO and Cinemax.
You know, the movies your parents didn't want you watching as a kid. You can find us every other week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher.
This is what you want.
This is what you get.
It's time, let's check our cue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. With a one-last plot holes of gratuitous movies. It's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy. At eilfm.podbean.com.
Welcome to Who Was She podcast. I am your host, Tara Jabari. After a decade working in documentaries, marketing, and all things digital media, I found that podcasting is a strong medium to share stories. After years of producing for others, I decided to start my own biographical podcast. Who Was She will focus on the life of a woman throughout Baha'i history. The first season is about Lydia Zamenhof. Lydia's story explores the subjects of the power of language and faith. Her father invented the universal language Esperanto, and she came from a Jewish family and became a Baha'i. She grew up during World War I and was killed during World War II in a concentration camp, despite heroic efforts to save her life. How can one person's life intersect with so many others, connect across borders, and inspire a biography which inspired this podcast? Over the next few weeks, I will share her story with you and the lives that were most affected by her and those who affected her life as well. They include her father, Ludwig Zamenhof, her spiritual mother, American journalist Martha Root, and the Baha'i German soldier Fritz Mako, who worked for the resistance undercover while having to serve the Nazi Party. I want to thank the author Wendy Heller and George Ronald Publishing for their blessing to let me use Heller's biography, Lydia, The Life of Lydia Zamenhof, Daughter of Esperanto, as a main and instrumental resource for this podcast. So please subscribe and learn about this amazing woman who traveled through 3 continents in an effort to bring unity through the power of language. You can also find more information on our Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest at Who Was She Podcast. Music was composed and performed by Sam Red. I am your host, Tara Jabari. Join us next time as we begin our journey about Lydia Zamenhof.
Hi, everybody. It's Mac Jackson. I wanted to invite you to a new site called the Forever Adventure Network. This website has everything: pictures, videos, blogs. There's original music by Harmony Constant, 2 podcasts. One is the MacGyver podcast, where we celebrate Richard Dean Anderson, his iconic roles, and how it's influenced our lives. There's episode discussions, interviews, and life conversations. The second podcast is the Never Gets Old podcast, where we celebrate all the best things that we love in life, from TV, movies, music, and comics. The site is also the home for the MacGyver SG-1 audio series, an ongoing adventure series that continues the adventures of MacGyver and SG-1. There are also multiple stores to choose from for all of your pop culture and adventure needs. Come on by and check us out today. And thanks for joining the adventure.
Are you sick of the same old stale podcasts? Well, then join Vanessa and Darren as they dissect movies of all kinds. The 2 lifelong cinema lovers bring their favorites, curiosities, and first-time watches to the operating table and inject them with a healthy dose of snark. Then there's the waiting room, where they examine books and short stories. So just look for them on Apple Podcasts and where fine podcasts are available. They're part of the Legion Podcast Network. Follow them on Twitter at VDClinicPod. Join them on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/VDClinicPod. Or email them at vdclinicpod@gmail.com. They're ready to cure what ails you. And still, they just might be a little contagious.
We now continue with our program.
What was the name of the movie again? I think I might have seen that one.
Be Kind, Rewind.
Oh, Be Kind. Oh, okay.
I'm visible a few times in that movie.
Did you get to see Jack Black and other people on set?
Yes, I did, actually.
Nice. Did he sing for you?
No, I didn't sing.
He's the best.
I did ask Jack Black about being a luchador.
And what was his reaction? Dare I ask?
Well, I had seen an interview he did in Wizard magazine at the time about Nacho Libre, where he said that luchadors, that he was getting death threats from fat women.
What?
Really?
He got death threats from fat women because they thought he made them look bad with Shallow Hal.
Oh my god.
That it was a really mean, nasty movie.
Oh my god.
So, at one point doing Be Kind, Rewind, I found myself there with him, like only a few feet away, and I asked him, so get any death threats from luchadors? And he laughed and he said, no, luchadors were big fans.
It's very eye-opening, but it's fun having kind of off-topic conversation like that on a movie set because you get to see how they take it as a, talent versus, a public figure. No, I'm glad you got to do that. I've always heard wonderful things about Danny, especially how he did a few other movies, and was the son of a postal worker, so he just always kind of had that just, again, gentle giant kind of feel, and going around I know there was this one movie he did, and he literally just told everybody, hey, you should go check out some of the lemonade that's there, It's just, had no business talking to anyone, and just said, hey, how you doing? Come get some of that lemonade before the concession stand, gets put up for the day. So, interesting aspect of his career, before he goes back to doing more, serial killer thrillers and historical dramas. Alrighty. 2 years later, there is David Fincher's debut as Alien 3. I'll go last in this one. I'm just going to let you guys just pile on it, or either join the I like or hate club.
I try so hard to like this movie. I try so
Same
hard.
with me.
It's like being in an abusive relationship. I keep crawling back.
Oh,
dear. I try so hard. I don't know, and I love David Fincher. I really do. He's one of my favorite directors.
It's funny how he will not acknowledge this. He just hated working with the Fox executives, and he is one of those you mess with any cut of his movie.
Yeah, they sound like a real prize.
I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal definitely never wants to work with him again when he takes 30 takes of each scene without saying, what are you doing better or worse? I can understand how many takes, but 70 takes, good fucking grief. Man. Detail. The devil's definitely in the detail with parts of this movie. I have seen only portions of what's in the producer's cut that's incorrectly labeled the director's cut. I find it a decent creature feature, but at the same time, it has a lot of dead space in between. I like how it's a prison movie without feeling like a schlocky exploitation movie, but at the same time, it's not organized at all.
Nope, not at all.
But I like the creature effects.
It's very chaotic.
Yeah. So I need to actually watch the director's cut. I kind of just find it an okay, 3 out of 5 kind of movie. Just it as a standalone, just creature attacking a prison. It's interesting, but it's cool seeing Bishop again. But the movie just starts off on just a very bad note, and it's good. It's like, okay, you just tossed them all to the side like they were just cannon fodder. I mean, so as a standalone movie, I'm okay with it. But I cannot blame anyone just saying, yeah, no, and there were only 2 Alien movies.
The one thing this movie was interesting to me is it's the one that broke the concept that the alien takes on the characteristics of whatever its host was, which had never occurred to me, because it comes out of a dog and it's walking on all fours more. It's more dog-like. That was a very interesting concept to me, I thought.
Yeah, definitely.
There's not much else I can say good about.
Or dog.
I know that's actually hard.
Yeah.
It is.
It's like they used unused drafts for the Thing or something. I guess I don't know.
that was sad.
Oh.
Charles Dance as the Doctor was one of the highlights of this one for me too. His performance was great. Sort of, the man with a sort of a, I don't know, a sinful past. The way he'd done, not sinful, he'd done some horrible thing, right? This soliloquy that when he tells her his story is a great scene, very emotional. He's a great actor. But overall,
and Dutton is definitely a former felon turned actor, and just seeing him play all these poetic kind of people, and he doesn't have enough to do in this movie, but he gets a little development before he gets killed at the very end. It's like Jesus, had a whole movie to develop him.
Yeah.
So I guess you're gonna give this a 2 out of 5 or something. I don't know.
I think you know what, I would give it an extra half, so 2.5, just because it's an alien movie. It's got Ripley in it.
Almost there.
It's got some decent kills when it grabs the one guy by the either side of his head, and
I kind of like the ending, but it's kind of the ending that would work better if it were like an anime or something. It's funny how different different execution makes for a better payoff, and you kind of feel a little cheated. It's like, jeez, that was just the only way you could get rid of the creature was.
I've never trusted movies. I never trusted movies that are in a series, like the third or fourth one in the series, where they try to okay, this is the final movie. We killed her. There's no way we can make another one. It's like, oh, pull the other one. Come on. It's like there's money to be made. You'll figure it out.
So many other. Well, because
final chapter series. No, it's not. Come on.
Well, there's that, and every other effects franchise. Often, when it's running out of steam, it's still going. Like when we were talking about Maniac Cop in another episode, we noted how there's still like a good 20 minutes that are a little overlong, but at least since the first half was interesting, it didn't feel like a drag getting to the finish line. So in here, is like you're at the finish line, and then you're having all these other detours and everything. So yeah, I would have to see the director's cut and compare. But I can't blame anyone for just giving up on the franchise at this point. Daniel, I'll let you weigh in and rank this.
Gonna give it a 3 out of 5 because I feel it's underrated. It has so much potential that they squandered.
It's a good movie in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe
really,
a great movie.
In an alternate universe, Ripley dies, Newt lives, Newt carries this genre from here.
Daughter of Ripley, rated R.
But that's not what they did.
No.
Nope.
I
Man.
agree to the Xenomorph taking on the aspect of the animal it impregnates was a great twist, but they just really didn't do much with it.
Ironically, that's like back when Movie Maniacs for Nika Toys was making figurines of all the various horror icons. Yeah. That was like the only version. That's the only version of the alien you can get.
The winged alien, the gorilla alien. I had those.
Yeah, that would have been. You're right. It's a fascinating concept. You would have loved to see it fleshed out more.
Same thing.
They did, but only the Predator. What do you want to call it?
Have you tried watching the producer cut or?
I've never seen it.
No, I've not.
I've not seen it.
No. One of these days.
Is it worth my time? Does it add anything?
I've heard a lot of people say there's a lot of Holocaust type imagery in it that kind of.
Jesus,
but
depressing enough as it is.
Right. I know, and so it's kind of one of those. I guess if you can get it discounted and you have time to kill, if it's a $5 Blu-ray, you might check it out. But I don't know. I wanted to get that set, but it had some other alien movies I wasn't keen on having in my lap. So we'll see. Moving on to about 5 years later, they have another go and gets all twisted, gets into development hell. It introduces Joss Whedon as a writer. And as we know, much like David Fincher, if you mess with his stuff, he starts disowning it or acting like that's not what I said, when he should know better that everything is a collaboration. He wrote all the dialogue and speed, for God's sakes, as well as the "You're a Dick" line in X-Men.
Yeah, that's just...
Yeah.
I love that one.
That's the best scene in the movie.
It absolutely is.
So here we go. Alien Resurrection. We have, again, space pirates, more evil corporations, and once again, Brad Dourif being psychotic Brad Dourif. I'll let you guys weigh in before I deliver.
I'm just going to say it. I like this movie.
Okay, good.
I like this movie a lot.
I actually do too, but it's far from perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. It didn't even really need to be an alien movie for me to like it. I like the crew of pirates are likable. You get a real sense that they're a family. I like that. They're bad guys, but they're not purely evil bad guys. Obviously they kill when, except for Ron Perlman's character, who's obviously completely psychotic.
I hear you.
I enjoyed that. Interesting choice with Winona Ryder.
Oh, yeah.
Who was just adorable as she could be back then.
I know many gals, like many action horror movie critics and film buff gals who rank this as their favorite movie. of all time. Like I've seen people go that. It was kind of a trend for a while. It's like, wow, really? Okay. Just, to them, for whatever reason,
It's better than it gets credit for, but it's definitely not the best genre.
That's true.
I'll let you weigh in, John, and then I'll go.
Well, this one, unlike the last one, I can at least call mediocre at best. I actually think Ron Perlman and Winona Ryder, I think they're actually the two best parts of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver did not work in this movie at all. She shouldn't have even been there, if you ask me. I mean,
I didn't mind her, but she doesn't really have much to do except just scream at the screen like she hasn't learned anything from the last.
Yeah.
And that's before you get to the plot twist. But just saying, we don't know that until the very end.
True.
I wish there had been a separate movie with all these mercs, all these pirates.
I agree.
This doesn't have to be an alien movie.
I would have watched a TV show on HBO or TNT or even NBC, just day in and day out, just seen this. I mean, you got Michael Wincott of The Crow, Three Musketeers, and Strange Days, and a wheelchair as a foul-mouthed pilot. You got Gary Durden.
Joss Whedon make Firefly, and that really is what this was. That's what.
There you go.
Yep, that's true.
The family of mercenaries who are not evil. I mean, they'll kill when they have to, but they're really not purely evil. That's the connection I made.
That's true. You got Ron Perlman. They're always calling him all these other awful, mental slurs, and then he's always like, "Aren't that dumb?" Then you got Gary Durden years before CSI. He's got some killer dreadlocks.
I love this movie.
And he watched Taxi Driver a million times because he's got the gun extension that comes out from under your wardrobe. I hate to be a contrarian. I've never been a Winona Ryder fan, so she does not work at all in this movie for me.
Okay.
Like it if you don't, you don't.
But it's a watchable movie. When I first saw it, I was like, what the fuck? But I got to give it some credit. It is at least it's definitely either a 2.5 or a 3 out of 5. There's some good elements, despite I used to not like other movies by this French director, but to be fair, he didn't really he had executives pointing a gun at his head, telling him what to do. So it's not a good horror movie. It's an okay sci-fi action movie because, again, Brad Dourif is a fun villain. And the alien experimentation makes sense, especially if you've read some of the comic books and books. There's a few moments that drag. There's a few parts of even the score, which some are blaring, some are lowering. I call this the X-Files effect, where you start turning the volume up just because everyone's mumbling, and then it starts getting loud again, and then you turn the volume down.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's like, damn it, stop. Everyone's wondering what I'm watching. This is cliche movie. Who did the score for this? It was freaking
I don't even know.
John Frizzell, who later did out of all movies, hell, he did Star Trek Enterprise, The Following, and Office Space, and Legion. Yeah, he's definitely one of the guys who you want to get for cheaper, but who's good at his job. Yeah, what can I say? Oh yeah, Jean Perret. He later made the very stunning Amélie, the French comedy. So this is a very interesting, unusual movie for him to do.
Yeah.
What can I say? It's dragging places and it's exciting in other places. It's not really a memorable action movie, but it is. At times, it gets your attention, so you want to see people run down the corridors, blasting at aliens, retrieving whatever scientific stuff. And then the plot twist really is the nail in the coffin for me. It it just comes out of nowhere. It feels.
I agree.
Yeah.
Been a clone all along, and they've had this mother and daughter bonding. Is like, okay, well.
Yep.
But like Daniel say, if you give it a chance, I guess you could say it's watchable junk food, but it's also just like a total WTF. Because I mean, I know there was a big PlayStation video game for this that was very popular in rental sales. In Game Informer. I don't know if anyone ever played it.
I did not.
Apparently, it had some story extensions and other stuff, so it'd be interesting to see someone do a walkthrough of that on YouTube.
I'm sure somebody might.
Yeah, probably with colorful commentary. Oh, what the fuck, an alien? Oh, so then for a while, Aliens kind of retired for a while. No one talks about it. I remember when Spike TV used to do marathons day in and out of all the sequels. AMC had a very, like, one of their few mature audience specials where they did a special on all the movies and had exclusive interviews back in, like, 2000. It was called, like, Alien: The Legacy. I think it's on one of the Blu-ray packs, believe it or not, so I'd be curious to check it out. So, yeah. After a while, after years of just talks of a versus matches, finally, the King Kong versus Godzilla equivalent arrives in theaters in 2004. None other than helming it, Paul Mortal Kombat W.S. Anderson. Oh, this was the first one I saw in the whole franchise. Sue me. It was on DVD, and my uncle wanted something to watch that was a beat 'em up movie. So I saw it. Oh, what was interesting is for hours before I watched the actual movie, I saw just a bunch of specials that talked about all the effects making and stunt coordinating. And I loved how, like, what's his name? Raul Bova, this German guy who thought he was going to become like the next Tom Cruise. His career did not it kind of retired after this movie, so I find it funny how he's just acting like, oh, he's gonna be a star. Everyone refers to him in the documentary as he's gonna be a star. It's like, oh, I don't think anyone can even pronounce his name. But I would see him in other occasional A-list movies, but never in a lead role. I thought it was okay junk food. Obviously, the unrated is like complete because it has more exposition and gore. It was the way it was meant to be seen. So if you just want it as a Saturday morning cartoon, I think it's a decent 3.5 out of 5, but I would never really consider it as part of the franchise because, I mean, Predator was already an awesome, B action film, and the Aliens was already respected, genre entry, and like A-list quality. So it just should have, I don't know, it should have just maybe been a short film, I guess, for more success. I don't know. But yeah, this was the favorite punching bag of 2004, despite it being one of the most sold out movies, one of the highest rated rentals.
Yeah.
I had many black friends who would say, oh, I love this movie. That was kick-ass. But it was kind of the Freddy versus Jason, I guess you could say, of 04, but I guess slightly less
concept,
trashy.
The script just didn't deliver.
Yeah, it doesn't help that no one is trying to make sure all the continuity is perfect, even though they got Lance Henriksen playing the engineer whose likeness was later used for, the Bishop robot cyborg. And to make it even more bizarre, like, there's just several times where it's like, they're like, oh, we got 5 seconds till the cave blows or the door shuts, and they don't even bother having the time match up. It's like, come on. We're counting here. We're not even trying to count. It's just nitpicks. So I guess you could say if you want a junk food outing, go for it. I don't have a problem with Paul W.S. Anderson when he stays away from Resident Evil and does stuff like Pompeii. But I guess you could say I wouldn't even blame him with this. I think the producers had to respect the material more, and John Davis of Predator kind of just wanted to churn it out without kind of making it better. I do. Arnold Schwarzenegger was supposed to be in this as Dutch. I think that really would have made a big difference. In fact, it might have been interesting having him be the expedition member. I know it would have been a little bit of a problematic, because I guess... No, it wouldn't. It would have been after Predators, so there you go. Aliens in the distant future, so...
Yeah.
Now, compared to Resurrection, I don't mind the CGI aliens in this. Even now, they're well rendered, kind of near Star Wars Lord of the Rings level, to where they don't stand out like a sore thumb. You know they're digital, but they still have a menace with their character movement and Foley design. It is cool seeing the flashback scene where the Predators are defending the ancient pyramid. I guess I like how they pretty much are Aztecian, Egyptian-like established here. So I guess that's... As a junk food outing, I do think it's actually way better than one likes to believe. But again, because it's part of a respected franchise, it's always going to be made out to be the bastard child, unless you just want something again. Surprisingly, I have not seen these movies be shown all that much on TV, which is very surprising. I will say the fight scenes looked way better in the trailer than in the actual cut, because they just go way too fast. And so I was like, I can't remember any fight scene, because I guess there was always going to be a losing match, because, all these other... It would have been better with some better known names. Yeah, you got Tommy Flanagan from Braveheart, but he doesn't have much to do except blow up the cave. Sana Lathan, who the hell is that? Loving basketball? Come on. So the only thing interesting about her is she's trying to be like Ripley and even lets off a Predator-like line, almost saying the F word. And you're able to tell all the aliens apart because, one of them has a scar on their head, but that does kind of make it too mindless for the average viewer. So, whatever. David, I'll let you weigh in. Did you see this movie?
I can't stand this movie. I think this movie, I think everyone wanted it to be great, including me. And I think some people have convinced themselves that it was, I think out of some, sense of disappointment. There are people to argue with me, this movie is great. I'm like, this movie's not great. This movie is a turd. I don't care for it at all. Would have been a great concept if done correctly. Putting Lance Henriksen in it doesn't do a thing.
Yeah, and he's the second guy behind Bill Paxton to have been both killed by an alien and a predator.
But it actually has a fairly decent cast. No, don't like it. Don't understand why people do.
It's just because it was kind of trying to be I think that's just it. It's trying to be like a Godzilla movie. But one of the more
we wanted it to be great, and it just wasn't.
They didn't have people who respected the source materials, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But there were some cool action figures that came with this. Let alone music videos. On YouTube. I used to do that all the time. John, what's your final ranking after David's 1 out of 5?
Well, this is a weird one. So I actually did see this in the theater. I was a kid at the time, so...
How was the theater design and people reacting?
To be honest, I actually don't remember. I don't think
everyone's dead silent. Did they go to sleep? I
think
that.
So.
People snoring and babies are whining at a movie they have no business being at.
No snoring, although I had that experience later on. But yeah, this is one I consider to be very average, very like ho-hum feature film. I mean, I wish they could have done this better.
Yeah.
Although there's some interesting ideas they come up with, but it's just the execution isn't quite there yet. And Paul Anderson, I actually don't hate him as much as a lot of people.
Everyone likes to have him as a punching bag. And it's just like until he gets something better, he's kind of a hired gun. He's only been asked to do mindless movies other than Pandorum and, Event Horizon, which is kind of as alien as he got, ironically. He just hasn't been given a chance.
And besides that, and Mortal Kombat, which is the only 2 films I liked from him so far. But
I think you'd like Pompeii if you like old sword and sandal kind of movies with a disaster element in the last act.
Wasn't a huge fan of that, but
okay.
Yeah.
We've talked about Soldier before on here too, how it's kind of okay as a mindless movie, but as a Blade Runner sequel, is like, what?
Yeah.
Kurt Russell, he's a cyborg.
But this I give like 2 out of 5. I don't hate it, but it could have been better.
It's just kind of something you just put on in the background, but you don't really actually pay attention to.
Exactly, that's what I do.
If you ever buy the entire Alien saga, you only, again, that's the only reason it's on your shelf is because it came in the, multi-pack. 6-pack. Get it? It's an Alien 6-pack. All right, Daniel, I'll let you fire away, and then we'll move on to the next
3 out of
Monster
5.
Bash. All right. It's kind of like Resurrection, where it's junk food, but it's not.
I had such high hopes, and this just did not deliver. But there was still some fun stuff.
Right. And it is kind of wild how, while Freddy versus Jason didn't really take itself all that seriously, I mean, this one doesn't. It's kind of a basic Saturday morning plot, but after the first act, I wouldn't say it's campy, but it just goes from literally just one attempt at thrilling you to the next, even though it's not campy or deadly serious. So it's just kind of weird how we start seeing a increase in these kinds of movies in varying qualities. So 3 years later, they decide, let's do, again, another Alien film, different cast and crew. Let's have the Strauss brothers, who've done special effects for films like, Galaxy Quest. And I saw the clips from it, and I was like, oh, this looks like the most poorly acted movie. I gave it another go years later, and despite too many scenes being in the dark, it doesn't really annoy me too much. It works as a B-movie feature, but I can see why some people are just like, yeah, leave this alone, or I only liked it because of the Predator fights, yada yada. It's a chaotic superhero kind of movie, I guess you could say, with some slasher undertones. Requiem. The characters don't get enough development. That is definitely the biggest kick in the stomach. It's like, okay, I should feel sorry for some of them. Some of them are annoying. Some of them just won't shut the hell up. And no one was asking for this, so it's got a lot working against it. I do like some of the actors, especially the female Marine, who's played by Rico Aylesworth of 24 fame. One of the many actors from that show who you see shooting aliens in various B movies. I guess and the plot twist at the end, what are their thoughts on that? It's kind of similar to Predator 2, where you're just showing how, again, there's a shady organization who has a game plan and wants these creatures to fight so that whoever wins, they can go to the crime scene and, get the remains and study them, develop weaponry. But I really have no other else. You either are into this or as mindless junk food, or it's just not all that great. So I guess you could say this was definitely, along with Rambo 4, one of the first Red Band trailers that I remember seeing on the internet, where they showed all the gory bits in the trailer. Too quiet here, guys.
Rambo 4, technically, it was not Rambo 4. It was Rambo.
No, my bad.
Yeah. They put it out there.
They put it out there. Did anyone see this one in the theater, or did they avoid it after being disappointed by the last one?
I avoided it.
I had not seen it.
Yeah. I hate this one. Yep. Yeah, to me, there's nothing good in this movie at all.
Okay. I just remember Entertainment Weekly being like the only person who gave this a positive review with a B-.
I'm not surprised. oh man, just like from the actors, and then like we said with the lighting. Oh my god, why do I even begin with that?
I understand why they did it, and yet they do it way too much. Where it's like, okay, come on. I can actually see. I can see what's going on, but then there are other moments where it's like, I mean, you're not in the sewer anymore. Why are you still in the dark?
Yeah, I just found nothing to enjoy in this thing. This was kind of torture to sit through, if you ask me. Yeah, I'll just give my rating right now. I give it a half star.
You nuked it. Bigger than the nuke in the movie.
Oof.
Oh, David, fire away.
I'm gonna have to confess I have never seen this. And from what you guys are saying, I'm not about to.
Okay. I think it's an okay B feature, but on the first viewing, I absolutely hated this one. It was like, come on. How stupid can you guys be? And this was back when IMDb was Troll City. There were people who would go out and say, this is the best Predator. Yeah, it was. There still are in the review section, but I'm talking in the forums. There's like, people would just go on and off. I was like, what are the last best R-rated movies? I'm like, come on. You guys are mad straws here. I would never say this is the best movie in the franchise. Why would you say that? The Predator does get some characterization. It is cool seeing their spaceship be shot down. But, again, it only works as a B movie. Once again, it suffers from, much like Resurrection and just where you never really care about everyone. It's just kind of the convict explodes right in your face, and you're not really ever really connected to what's going on. As a B actioner, it does do the magic, but again, it varies by scene, let alone by the lighting. So it's like, okay, I can't fully recommend this one. I guess it's a 3 out of 5 for me. I don't believe in guilty pleasures, but it's definitely would be under that label. But I can't blame anyone for who's just like, yeah, worst movie of the year. All right, so moving on. Alien gets a spin-off / origin story / whatever in 2012 with Prometheus, and also known as the internet argument starter. So many people love this movie. So many people hate this movie. I saw this with my mother and the sister in the theater. My sister surprisingly liked it. She doesn't like these kinds of movies. And she was down with it. She liked the characterization of the scientist, how they're doing this for, personal research for their dying dad who wants to see this. Me, it was just way too predictable for me, especially as you knew who was going to be infected. And I really do not like the music. The CGI, I know people praise it. It looked like a very crappy video game to me. And ironically, they did do a lot of model work, including the decapitation. And it just looks so fake to me, even though it was practical. So I was just like, I didn't like any of these characters. This was definitely where I started avoiding movies that starred Idris Elba, because I just knew more often than not they tend to just be very bad. I will say Charlize Theron is probably the only character that gets any development, and you root for her comeuppance at the very end. The Teetering Tower, Ship of Doom. I know other people that swear by this one, but I'm going to have to stand by the 1 out of 5. I'll let you guys praise or destroy this movie now.
I'm with you on this one.
And I know many people are just like, oh, you're just so dumb. You don't get it. And it's like, here's the thing. I mean, there's really isn't any mystery to really build on. You have it all explained to you, and everyone... This is by the Damon Lindelof, the head writer of Lost, and everyone likes to do the same kind of, oh, it's actually deeper than it actually says. It's like, I think you guys are just having way too much fun. At the end of the day, even if I were to try and find it watchable or likable, I don't like the new cyborg. I can never remember his name, played by Fassbender.
David.
So there you go. Just simplest name on the bunch. Like, religious name, and I get nothing from any of these characters. It really doesn't accomplish anything. You literally just get a bunch of, again, scientists discovering stuff, and then again, everyone overriding, doing mutinies, and again, predictably getting killed. And why the fuck did they take their helmets off? I know they did the whole it's safe to breathe, but I just feel everybody is supposed to be smart, and they're just all very cardboard cutouts. And I'm curious to see what this would have been like had Ridley Scott not returned. But this is what I use as proof of some people should not return to their franchise. So, Daniel, did you see this in the theater?
I did, and I'm giving it 3 out of 5. I like it actually.
All good.
They laid very good seeds here, but the way that they did it, you can't follow up. Like the origin of the Xenomorph, brilliant. But then they didn't follow up on that.
I will admit, I don't really remember how it gets formed. It just kind of just shows up, and you're just like, okay, now it's there killing everybody.
That was supposed to be the point.
Okay. So there you go. I guess something about just how it kind of feels forced in your face. And I know everyone does the whole... I've seen plenty of people get into arguments on this movie, violently agree and disagree on it. I will say this. The scientists, they're not the dumb kind. It's just kind of, just what's going to happen just the minute it's all laid out. So I just find it very uninvolving. Like, who's going to make out, who's going to, go back to the planet and, try and encounter the godlike aliens of it. Interestingly enough, Ian White, who had been the stuntman who had played the various aliens and predators, once again returned to do creature work as that main, alien god.
Yeah, then right, he's the engineer.
Yeah, the engineer. Gherman, what's your take on this?
I like this movie. I'm with Daniel. I think this movie is very good. It's got a couple of scenes in it that just freak me out. The scene with Mills when the worm thing attacks him just completely disturbed me. And also the surgery pod scene where she's trying to get the thing out of her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's hard to watch, man.
Really?
And I enjoy it. It's a big movie. It reaches for some lofty ideas, and it doesn't always get there, but I enjoy it. Scared the crap out of me in a couple of scenes. It's got some great violence in it. Great score. The cinematography. Some of the early scenes when they're landing the ship, coming through the atmosphere of the planet, and then swinging around those mountains. It's a beautifully shot film. I'm going to give it 3 stars, 3 out of 5.
All right. So now we know why this just varies by crowd.
Right, this movie is very. It will cause arguments. It's interesting.
Before we had the third Star Wars trilogy, we got this one. So followed up. Oh my bad, I'm an idiot. I've just done these out of order. Yeah, prior to that, there was the other Predator movie called Predators, also known as Surviving the Game, Hard Target in Space. This also establishes the Predator homeworld and goes again for a lot of just the wall-to-wall action. So this is another one that is a argument factor. I'll let you guys go first. I also saw this in the theater.
I did too. It's like a mixed bag. There's some fun action at times, and
I think I told you about the story when Danny Trejo as the cartel gunman first showed up and got killed. Everybody went, "Machete died!" And then I saw a bunch of other black people in the audience freaking out when someone got their entire rib cage and skull pulled out of their skin. They're like, "Ooh, nasty."
I got
It's like, it's like, come on, who doesn't know what they're watching here? It's a Predator movie.
Yeah,
I find some of the cast kind of forgettable, especially Topher Grace's character. His character is not well explained. I do like it better than the other Predator sequels. It may not outdo the original, but I would do a double feature with it, especially because it's on AMC and FX almost every other weekend. I have a lot of fun with it. It's not for everyone. Some people weren't sold by Alicia Braga as the, Israeli sniper, and the Royce character played by award winner Adrian Brody.
Oh, he's what kind of ruins it for me.
Really? Didn't buy him? Right.
Just with a voice and.
Certainly, he's an interesting choice for the role, yeah. But
did you see this in the theater, guys?
no, I
no.
Well, I'll let you guys finish off on it. It's a mixed bag. I had a lot of fun with it. It was a 4 out of 5 for me, but I understand it's also another argument starter. So
it's my second favorite Predator movie, if that says anything.
That's kind of just where I go with it. I think it's just, I like how they're all various warriors and assassins from other places. Other people did the whole, well, they're not all likable, but see, you could easily argue that with Jesse Ventura. You don't like him in Predator, but you find him funny because of his, bigoted, homophobic attitude. So I just had fun with their different killing styles, especially with the samurai sword kind of takedown. But for me, it works better than the Alien and Predator movies because I can actually remember the various character qualities and the fun. I feel like they're having way more fun with the concept as opposed to just being random. And you do see more of the Predator homeworld. It's cool seeing Lawrence Fishburne as another warrior. And again, much like Morpheus, he has to be the guy who speaks wisdom.
Yeah, he turns out to be batshit crazy.
Right. He's like, if I can see them, so can they. And then, yeah, much like Bennett and all these other guys, he just is kind of starting a mutiny. So anytime I see Adrian Brody in an action movie, I basically just always check it out because I just liked how buff he was in this. But I'll let Daniel finish this off here.
You one ugly motherfucker. I didn't see this one, actually. Okay. I didn't. I'm sorry. I never got a chance.
Oh, good. We're gonna have the same problem when we do Child's Play next week. Oh. Some of them we have tried to watch all the Child's Play movies, and some of them were just like, "Yep, we're just gonna go ahead because we've just watched most of them." The other ones, I'm gonna let someone else talk. So we go on to the second. We're going to the second Alien film of the 2010s before Fox decides to reboot the whole franchise again. And also, Ridley Scott gets to revisit it again, and it's called Alien Covenant, set shortly after those various events, and once again exploring another robot duplicate of David. I'll let you guys, John, I'll let you go ahead, then I'll let David and Daniel weigh in.
Yeah. This one, I'm not.
A lot of comedians in the cast.
Well, that's the big surprise. He was Danny McBride. I actually thought the best part of this movie. I wasn't a fan of his at all. He surprised me. So
I'm actually surprised Kevin Bacon is in this movie. Because he just kind of just shows up and you're like, whoa, Kevin Bacon's in the movie. He wasn't top billed.
Yeah, boys.
Yeah, boy. Everybody get footloose with the alien. Yeah, no. I saw many people like this movie, but hate the characters in it because they either weren't developed or they just didn't care if they died or not. A big turnoff for me is just how you see it through the taped video footage, and just the way they do all the grainy, just documentary kind of look to it just is a real turnoff for me.
Yeah.
This is a 0.5 star out of 5 for me. I know I'm being very cruel and it has some decent production values, but I just don't remember anything about the characters and I cared not about the outcome of anyone. David, I'll let you fire away.
This movie strangely made no impact on me whatsoever. I was hoping for something at least as good as Prometheus, and it just wasn't there. I thought the plot twist with David, and they had the other David on board was so obvious. When the one had long hair and the one had short, it was so obvious what was going to happen. Like he was going to cut his hair and pretend to be the other one. And I didn't understand the religious overtones with Billy Crudup's character being all,
keep religion out of the movies with these.
This movie, it's not terrible. It really made no impression on me whatsoever. Again, it got some good violence in it.
I don't even remember any of the gore or explicit moments of it. I just kind of was just like, it just became very monotone. I just knew everybody, again, just served as they're just going to die by the end of the movie. So I just like...
Yeah, I didn't... and it didn't expand on...
Oh, it's vaguer than Prometheus. Prometheus, even though it's not going to wrap it all up, that it's at least just an origin story. And it's like this one, it's just more intrigue, but it really doesn't matter at the end of the day.
I just don't care for it.
Daniel.
Been said. It's not a good addition. It just isn't. It has nothing.
All right. I know I'm being a hard ass on these movies, but I just feel like Alien's kind of at its end game. I know the head writer of the Fargo show is working on an Alien show, Niell Blomkamp. I hope he gets to do his version of Alien, because especially the concept art he did.
I wish he got to do it, to be honest.
Because I mean, he was going to do some resolution to the whole Newt and Hicks storyline. I'm like, please do it before Michael Biehn dies of a heart attack one day. Do it. So yeah, that leads us to the final entry and probably final Predator movie that's ever going to be made, The Predator. Shane Black of the first two Lethal Weapon movies and Last Boy Scout and various other films, Last Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and who had originally been one of the Marines in the first Predator, decided to do his take on it. Lo and behold, before it even made it out, Edward James Olmos was playing a key scientist role and had his scenes deleted. To make it even worse, Jake Busey played a scientist who's actually the son of Gary Busey, his real-life dad's character, and they totally omitted that storyline. Things did not get any easier during the production of this movie when Olivia Munn got very insecure and had a crew member who get fired when she found out that he was actually a former sex offender due to a statutory thing back in the 80s. To make it even worse, her male cast members refused to promote the movie with her because they were afraid of her just taking things the wrong way and probably getting them fired. So, all in all, the rest of the movie apparently wasn't a crapshoot and got filmed really quickly, and is loosely set after the events of all three other movies. I'll let you guys all weigh in before I do. David, have you seen this one?
I'm sorry, I have not seen this one.
Really? Okay.
You'll forgive me.
Alrighty. I'm going to let John fire away.
Well...
Did you see this in the theater?
Yeah, I did.
Much like Alien Covenant, I was seeing a lot of people just take to social media and bitch about the trailer, or either say that... Well, actually, with Covenant, they were at least saying, oh, that looks cool, I want to see it, and then bitching about it the next day. This one, I was seeing people say, I fucking hate this. This looks like it's going to be garbage. They were looking at the trailer. I didn't watch trailers, so I didn't have that impression. My sister went along with me and was not the most amused, but she liked Shane Black and was just like, I'll give it a go. Much like AVP, Arnold Schwarzenegger was supposed to make a cameo at the very end of the movie, and he did not, unfortunately. But he did in one of the newest video games, so... I guess whatever requires less work.
Yeah.
I don't find many of the characters remarkable in this movie. I mean, I remember a lot of it was more interesting when you had them fighting on the Predator planet and they were, from different warrior backgrounds. This one, they're basically all ex-cons and other mercenaries who've been framed for something that they didn't do. I guess the most you're going to remember is Keegan-Michael Key of the comedy group Key and Peele, and Thomas Jane, that's right, the Punisher himself, are both just trading insults with each other and both fucking crazy.
That's pretty much it, yeah.
I don't remember any of the other characters. I find it interesting that they have a lot of the Predator dog creatures appear here.
Those were fun.
Yeah. I think it's an okay as a B feature, but much like Predator 2, it seems to vary by audience. Now, there were some good critic reviews of this, but there were some other critics who just absolutely hated this movie. So I saw some other people who just felt like it was watchable, but an unfinished movie. What's your take on that, John? Does it feel like an unfinished movie, or does it just feel like a movie that's just very generic, like Alien Free?
I wouldn't say unfinished, but I mean, well, I'll say this. This is one I actually kind of have fun with a little bit up until you get to the end, which to me felt like that was studio
to be continued. Well, I'm not going to say
like that was studio interference there at the end. That's what it felt like at the end.
Shane Black's dialogue is pretty good. It's his usual Tourette profanity-laced moments. Like, Boyd Holbrook was good as the main mercenary. I always got him mixed up with Garrett Hedlund, but he's one of the head villains in Logan, and he's been in a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, there were some other guys who appeared in this. It was cool to see some minorities, some brothers from other mothers playing off each other. That was cool.
And you also got Sterling K. Brown from This Is Us.
He is very fun to root for his comeuppance.
He felt like the character that Craig Bianco did in Longest Goodnight. That's what, at least to me, he felt like.
I didn't really get that, but I know what you're going for. Shane Black always writes his villains that way. I got a bit of a less memorable Dr. Joshua, or from Lethal Weapon kind of feel.
I could see that.
He does chew the shit out of the scenery, and ironically, he does kind of give Gary Busey a run for his money to some extent. He is just ruthless. One minute he's working with them, the next minute he's trying to shoot one of the other merc heroes. I will say, for the other casting, you're not going to remember their names, but they do pretty good with the source material. You got Mike DePod of the Stargate shows as one of the Marines trying to kill the other guys. Alfie Allen from Game of Thrones is here. Olivia Munn's a decent heroine. It's hard to believe that she was, so stuck up and hard to work with, but it doesn't show in the final cut. Yvonne Strahovski, her as the blonde hero, is pretty interesting as the gal who has her life all disrupted, but it's cool seeing kind of civilians kind of get in on the action and have to actually kind of gives it a 80s kind of slasher kind of feel.
Yeah. That's what I got from this too.
I guess you can say that Fred Decker of Night of the Creeps and, Ricochet clearly had some early script additions, but, I guess you could say this movie has some interesting ideas, but way too many characters, kind of like the new Alien films. It's just like...
Yeah. I would agree with that.
So other than that, I recommend this lightly. If it's on HBO, watch it, but don't, it, again, much like the Prometheus, it's just an Alien Resurrection. It just varies so much by crowd. I can't tell you if you're going to like it because I don't know. Every persona is different. So I feel like the franchise is kind of to a close, but I can understand why they're trying to go all TV with it now. I just am so worn out with it. I don't mind the action in this, but it's not memorable. But again, it's way less lowbrow and shoddy like AVP, and it doesn't feel like an incomplete story.
Yeah,
even though there is a mild cliffhanger and setup for something. So I think because Fox and Shane Black were not getting along, and then this was in the wake of Me Too, and Olivia Munn's just, being so insecure around every man who she has to share a scene with, I think there should have been some different casting choices, maybe some
possibly
better care. So
I think Boyd Holbrook's character was supposed to be Benicio del Toro at one point. If I'm not
I would not doubt it.
And
he definitely has a similar demeanor to his character in Sicario. So, I don't think this is the best of the franchise, but I don't think it's a low note. It's just again another adventure, I think. But I can honestly say this is definitely it for Predator.
Mm-hmm.
This is the final installment. It just
Promise.
Shane Black and I promise, because until some asshole comes along and decides, oh, it's been over 40 years, let's remake it with a crappy wrestler. I don't think anyone's going to touch it.
John Cena.
Years ago, I would have said that, but now he seems to want to only do just dorky comedy roles. So
True.
Yeah, so it looks like Alien's the only one they're keeping alive. They're trying to do a TV show, and I'm all aliened out. I wouldn't mind another Predator, but it's just me. So, John, where can we find you on the interwebs?
On Twitter, it's ActionFan555, and Instagram is Jonathan Mark.
Groovy. And Daniel, where can we find you as the Nightmare Nerd? When are you going to do some more blogging and House of Tortured Souls?
Always Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and House of Tortured Souls, and Behind the Screams. Each will be scary.
Groovy. I look forward to please, if you got any articles that are coming out, share them.
Sure.
And David, we know where to find you on The House That Screams.
Yeah, The House That Screams, and that's about it.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up